Hello and welcome back to Project Luxury. Over the past decade, China has embarked on one of the most ambitious projects the world has ever seen, the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. This colossal endeavor with a total investment of $1.3 trillion spans over 140 countries and includes the construction of high-speed rail networks, massive dams, and other infrastructure projects. The BRI aims to extend China's influence globally through massive extensive investments, but also any aspects of the initiative are faltering. For instance, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, initially budgeted at $60 million, remains unfinished. Similarly, Kazakhstan's $9 billion Koros Gateway dry port project has been deemed largely unnecessary by experts. Such mega projects funded by China are not limited to developing nations. Countries like Montenegro, Greece, and Italy have also received billions for various ventures. However, these projects share common issues. They are often incomplete, significantly over budget, or completely abandoned. Adding to the challenges, many recipient countries are now struggling to repay their loans. It's estimated that over a quarter of these loans have defaulted, forcing China to provide more than $240 billion in bailout funds. Originally intended as the hallmark of President Xi Jinping's foreign policy, the BRI has shifted from being hailed as the project of the century to being considered a monumental failure. Let's explore what the Belt and Road Initiative is, why it has faltered, and its implications for China. It's important to recognize that not every project under the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, has been a complete failure. While many are significantly over budget or impractical, some have delivered benefits, such as job creation and local investment. For example, the Forest City residential complex in Malaysia has been a positive outcome of the initiative. The BRI, launched in 2013, was designed to expand global influence from China through two main components: the Belt and Road, and the Belt also aims to connect China to Central Asia and Europe by land, passing through countries like Kazakhstan and Ukraine, while the road focuses on developing sea routes and infrastructure across Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Contrary to popular belief, many of the projects associated with the BRI were already in progress or under discussion before the initiative's official launch. The term Belt and Road was more of a marketing strategy to group these projects together. Despite the name, most BRI projects have been in the energy sector, although this focus has decreased over the years. As of 2020, around 40% of the investment was still directed toward energy. Typically, a country would agree to a new energy or transport project, and Chinese firms would be awarded contracts to design and build the infrastructure, often using Chinese workers for construction before they returned home. Although the term Belt and Road suggests a coherent strategy, in reality, the projects are a collection of disparate ventures with no unified vision or plan, leading to various challenges. To understand why China embarked on such ambitious global infrastructure projects, it's useful to look at its historical predecessor, the Silk Road. For much of history, China was one of the largest and most advanced economies. Early advances in agriculture and manufacturing made Chinese goods highly desirable worldwide, leading to the creation of the Silk Road. This trade route connected China with Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, and Europe for over 1,500 years, bringing immense wealth and global influence to China long before modern communication and transportation. However, by the 18th century, European nations began to industrialize, and China's influence started to wane. Jump forward to 2013, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping sought to revive and build upon this historical legacy with the Belt and Road Initiative. This ambition to recreate the Silk Road's grandeur is a primary driver behind the BRI, aiming to expand China's global influence. As China's economic power and global status have grown, it has sought to forge strategic relationships worldwide through financial investments and loans, similar to how the U.S. implemented the Marshall Plan in Europe after World War II. This is particularly significant in the energy sector, where key recipients of BRI loans include Russia, Qatar, and Malaysia, countries rich in natural resources. By establishing these connections, China aims to secure access to essential materials. Another reason for the BRI is China's need to invest its vast foreign reserves. China's role as the world's factory has led to the accumulation of trillions of dollars in foreign currency reserves. Investing in infrastructure projects abroad was seen as an effective way to deploy these funds. A third, less discussed reason is to address overcapacity in China's economy. China's rapid growth has led to excess in productive capacity, particularly in industries like steel, cement, aluminum, and construction materials. With a global economic slowdown and reduced demand, many Chinese firms have faced challenges finding enough workers for their large workforce. The BRI has intended to tackle these issues by providing work through various infrastructure projects, thus addressing multiple problems simultaneously. Originally envisioned as a grand success, the BRI has become a significant challenge for China. Critics and economists have pointed out that the initiative has led to massive debt levels, which could be detrimental to China's economy. China has been providing loans to numerous countries but now faces significant risks of not being repaid. The reasons behind this predicament is complex, particularly given China's tight media control and lack of transparency. Despite this, we know that China has launched thousands of projects in over 150 countries, often with minimal oversight or due diligence. One major issue with the Belt and Road Initiative is the nature of the countries receiving these loans. Many are developing or emerging nations, which typically lack the financial resources for large-scale infrastructure projects like railways and road networks. China stepped in to provide funding with relatively few questions asked. Unlike traditional loans from organizations like the IMF, which come with numerous conditions such as feasibility studies, anti-corruption measures, and environmental regulations, China offered substantial loans with simpler terms. These loans had shorter repayment periods and higher interest rates compared to IMF loans, but they were considered easier to obtain. This lenient approach led to a rapid increase in the number of countries signing up for Chinese loans, with Chinese firms establishing operations across Africa, Asia, Europe, and South America. However, problems quickly emerged. Data shows that the credit rating of loans to emerging economies, a measure of default risk, has significantly declined since the BRI's inception in 2013. Most of these loans are now approaching junk status, indicating a high likelihood of non-repayment. The poor selection process for loans becomes evident when examining the list of China's largest BRI lenders. At first glance, countries like Turkey and Egypt started out for having received around $1 billion each in loans from China. Both nations are economically struggling, with Egypt nearing financial collapse. However, the problems with Chinese loans extends beyond developing countries to include developed ones as well. Initially, only 5% of Chinese loans went to countries in distress, but this percentage increased to around 20% after sanctions on Venezuela in 2014. In the past 5 years, this figure has surged to about 60%, largely due to the economic strains caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing war in Ukraine. With a total exposure of the BRI reaching approximately $1.3 trillion, this means China now faces the potential for $780 billion in unpaid loans. To put this into perspective, that's roughly equivalent to the entire Swiss economy and more than double the debt of the world's most indebted company, China's Evergrande. The issues with the BRI are not just about timing. Poor project selection has also been a major problem. A notable example is the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. Despite the project being deemed unfeasible by the US and India, China funded it. The port's construction began with significant investment from Chinese firms, but in 2017, Sri Lanka could no longer make loan payments, leading to a 99-year lease of the port to China. This project, like many others, has been marred by corruption allegations, with Chinese officials making significant contributions to the then-president's election campaign. Such issues are common, with about 35% of BRI projects facing problems related to corruption, bribery, or labor violations. As the reality of the BRI unfolds, China has started to significantly reduce its lending. The net flow of money from China to BRI countries shows a shift from heavy outflows to demanding repayments and halting new loans. China now faces a dilemma: continue funding these projects to make them profitable, or cut ties and stop the cash flows, which could lead to many projects being abandoned due to lack of funds from host nations. This situation mirrors China's domestic challenges with heavily indebted property developments. With hindsight, it's clear that China overextended itself, although at the time Western nations were criticized for not undertaking similar projects, allowing China to dominate regions like Africa and Central Asia. While the BRI has bolstered China's image as a global power, ongoing problems could tarnish this reputation. With rising interest rates and global economic downturn on the horizon, the situation may not improve soon. That was all from us today, folks. See you in the next one.